Hello, this is Marianne with the Sustainable Living Podcast. Today I have a guest we had before on our show. It's a person I met on Steemit. It's a social media platform we have been talking about quite a bit already on this podcast. His name is Taskmaster4450, and today we are talking about the idea of universal income. And not just about the idea, we are talking about how you can get every week some income into your pockets without having to do anything but sign up. I'm going to have the links to all of that in the show notes. But for now, find out what Universal Basic Income is all about, why, why you want it, why we think it's a good idea, and why we think you should sign up today. Enjoy the show. Oh, and I almost forgot. Everything we're telling you is our opinion only. You have to figure out for yourself what you want to do, right? Welcome.
Thank you.
So today we want to explore the idea of basic income a little bit. And we are going to get some really exciting news how that can become reality sooner than we think. So, would you first tell us what is the idea of basic income and why is it important?
Well, basic income is an idea that's been floated around for probably 200 plus years. First one I have read attributed to it was Thomas Paine, and he talked about it, in the late 1700s. Since that time, at various intervals throughout our history, people like Martin Luther King have talked about it. Richard Nixon was in favor of it. John Maynard Keynes was in favor of it. Even Milton Friedman has talked about it. So you have people all over the political spectrum who've come out and stated they're in favor of it. But it basically has been a theoretical discussion point, if you will, things for university students to discuss and think tanks and things of that nature. However, it's really becoming a more common theme the last 5 to 7 years. And it's really the tech industry, and in particular, the tech titans who are pushing this. People like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, all have come out in favor of basic income. And actually, they're not coming out in favor of it. They're even going a step further and saying basically it's needed, that we cannot go without it long term. And the simple motivator from where they're coming from is they realize that technology is going to destroy jobs. We are going to have technological unemployment at some point because of the pace of technology going forward. And it's going to reduce the number of jobs that are required. So people are going to have a more difficult time in the future, according to these people, according to these leaders, because of a diminishing workforce. And that's the whole idea behind it, that people will have their basic needs met: clothes, food, and shelter. Now, obviously, that varies from person to person. Basic needs isn't a Ferrari. But if you can get your clothing, food, and shelter covered, you're doing pretty good. And that's the basic premise of it.
Very good. So far, I think we have seen several thought projects of trying to make that happen, but so far we haven't seen anything really going into reality. But there is an experiment started, I heard from you, which is using cryptocurrency as a tool to achieve that idea. Would you talk about who is behind it and what's ideas and how this all might happen?
Yeah, actually, it's the experiment took place. I think it was started in June 2016 and ended in August of last year. It was initially a program called Grant Coin, which was a cryptocurrency that was created for the specific purpose of ending worldwide poverty. It was designed to be a basic income that is given to anybody who signs up. And they ran their pilot program for those 14 or 16 months. They distributed somewhere around $500,000, if memory serves me. And basically what they did during the pilot program is to work out the bugs. They were seeing the wallet system. They had a rather manual distribution process. They were doing it quarterly. Then they even reduced it down to monthly. And really, they were getting feedback as to what they needed. They shut it down at the end of August. And since that time, they've basically been redesigning everything. And when I say redesigning everything, they're bringing in a new wallet system, a much more updated one. I think the wallet system, the CTO said, was 4 or 5 years old, a peer-to-peer wallet system. So now they're using the latest and greatest. They redid the website. They actually have automated the distribution process so that it doesn't take as much user interaction in terms of human interaction as it did in the past. And they're going to complete the sign-up process. They turn back on the referral program to get people signed up and get on the email list. So those people should get an email, which will allow them to finish the sign-up process. The wallets would be distributed at the same time. See the distribution of tokens. And as I said, the basic premise of this is anybody who signs up gets tokens. So we are looking at using a cryptocurrency to provide a basic income to people around the world. And this is offered to anybody anywhere in the world. They are eligible. As long as you can prove you are you can get the tokens. And this alleviates one big part of the basic income debate. Even many people who are for the idea of a basic income, that brings up the challenge where an argument or a debate occurs of how do we pay for it. And naturally, some of the pilot programs you're seeing around the world, Ontario, I believe, has implemented one. Kenya had one for a while. There's one going on in Oakland, and they're being funded by various outlets. The founder of Y Combinator, he's funding the Oakland project. Ontario is being funded by the government. Kenya was funded by a nonprofit organization. So there's really different entities that are trying to get reliable feedback about the universal basic income concept. Well, this situation with Manna, which, by the way, that's the new name of the grant coin, is now Manna, that bypasses all of it. And what that does is say, keep government out of it, forget debating how do you pay for it. We have the solution, and it's a cryptocurrency.
So basically, just to be really clear, basic income means that you get an income without having to do anything for it. So in the Manna case, all you have to do is sign up and then fill in the required information showing that it's you. So is there like a safeguard in there that nobody signs up 5 times or 10 times?
Yes. Being in the United States, the Database Foundation, it's a 501c3, which for those of you who don't know, that's a designation according to the IRS of nonprofit. So it's a nonprofit organization. But being in the United States, they have to adhere to the U.S. securities laws. Anytime you're dealing with any of these tokens, there's security laws. So there has to be some type of proof that you are you. Not so much for duplication, although the foundation's concerned about that, as are most token distributors. The government is concerned about that for money laundering purposes. So that's why there is the Know Your Customer laws in effect, and anybody who's in the banking or any type of currency, which cryptocurrency falls under, the financial realm, they have to have these documents filled out that says, I am me, and in case I'm starting to run $50,000 worth of cash through every 2 days, that I got from dealing drugs or anything like that, they'll know whose door to knock on. But the form is basically just a general form, but it's just name, address, phone number, your basic stuff that says that you are you. But certainly the foundation is concerned. I don't want people signing up 2, 3, 4 times. And that's one of the reasons why they're in August are going to be implementing a program for children. That's the goal, where they can take children and set them up with a wallet. And for the next 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it is, till this child reaches the age of majority, they can have tokens going into a wallet. And then when they turn 18, you have that programmed into the smart contract of the blockchain. So on a certain date, when this child turns 18, the key is released and the child can have access to the funds. The challenge with that is, how does a child prove that he is him or she is she? And that's where they're looking to work with maybe some of the nonprofit organizations that deal with children, your police athletic leagues and your youth groups and things like that, where they can go to those organizations and say, listen, you have 15 kids in your program, let's get them signed up. And, you know, you can verify that that's Sally Johnson. Okay, well, let's get Sally signed up.
So could parents do that for their children as well? But I guess we see that when that is more developed.
There have been. I mean, it depends on what you define child as, but I know somebody who signed up her 2 daughters, and they're 14 and 16 or something like that. I know another who signed up her 15-year-old daughter. So, and there's nothing against that. So I would say that, you know, you could do that. But when you're dealing with a 6, 7, 8-year-old child, that's not a problem. But again, I don't think, I mean, their idea is to get this in as many hands as they can. But again, when you have a child who's very young, it gets very difficult for the verification process. Obviously, you get somebody 15 or 16, they have a learner's permit. They're in the system in some way, shape, or form. An 8-year-old or a 6-year-old typically isn't, other than maybe school records.
I'm just thinking, you know, there are a lot of people which are concerned about, for example, college funds, or, you know, they barely can put food on the table and want to have a future for their children. So that would be one way to possibly ensure that, you know, this is still in development, right? So we probably hear a lot more about that as time comes. But I have another question. So the wallet is basically something which lives online, right? Or it lives on your computer. How is that going to be?
Wallets can take many forms. On Steem, for example, in the site itself, your wallet is on the website. It's actually on the blockchain. But you can buy Steem on the open market and keep it in an offline wallet if you so desire. There's people who've created wallets, and they have that. There's also, from what I understand with Steem, a mobile wallet coming out where you could keep Steem on your phone. And so Manna is going to be the same. You could have it offline on a thumb drive and keep it in your safe deposit box if you want. I don't know if you would want to do that if you don't have a lot of tokens in there, but if you start amassing some good, decent amount of tokens, you might want to do that. Or you could download the wallet onto your laptop or your computer and keep it on there. There's a variety of ways to do it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that people which are most in need for this, you know, for basic income, a lot of time don't have devices, and they can use computers at the public library, for example, but they might not have a device of their own. So I'm just wondering how the access, oh boy, I can't say that word, access is ensured for them.
What we're finding actually is a lot of the poverty-stricken places, their number of internet users are going up at an incredible pace because of smartphones. If you look at some of the initiatives where you see on like the continent of Africa, for example, I mean, they're putting smartphones in people's hands for, pennies on the dollar. They get a, pretty good smartphone for like $3. That's starting to come into play. But you're right. I mean, there'll be mobile wallets. There'll be other ways that they can keep them online. It's just part of the process with cryptocurrency. It's important to remember we're still very early in the cryptocurrency industry in general. So a lot of the difficulties in terms of using currencies and different difficulties with exchanges still need to be worked out. Wallets need to be worked out. And that's across the industry. That's not only with Manna. I mean, Steem, one of the biggest problems with Steem is that you can't convert it from Steem to a fiat currency. You have to you convert it first to Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum or something else, or go to an exchange and convert it to another cryptocurrency and then convert it to your fiat. I mean, that's a pain in the neck, and it costs a little bit extra money. I mean, insignificant amount, but it does cost a little bit amount of money in exchange fees. So, I mean, these are some of the things that require being worked out. But for the first few months, I'm going to anticipate with the Manna that most people are going to end up holding it, because right now the coin trades at about a penny and a half. There were 3,000 people in the pilot program, roughly 3,000 wallets. Since they reopened the sign up in the first 2 weeks, they had another 5,800 sign up. So they almost doubled the number of people who are going to be, part of the program. So, I mean, over time, you get the 50, 100, 200, 300,000 wallets. You should see the value of the token increase, which, of course, then would increase the person's holdings, which A, could help them out if they need it, or B, they could give the tokens to somebody else who's in need or some organization that's in need.
You were saying that by getting this income, if you don't really need it, you have a choice to send it on to other charities already built into the system.
Well, they will be built into the system, and they are going to be lining themselves. Actually, I take that back. There are a couple of organizations that they already are aligned with. One is a women's organization. I'm not real familiar with that, but there are a couple organizations that you can send your currency to if you so desire. I'm sure there will be more coming down the pike. That's what their goal is. And there's also another thing that people can set up their own. One of the big things about cryptocurrency is the community aspect of things. And for example, you could get a bunch of people together who belong to the same church and say, hey, listen, we're getting these currencies coming in. We don't need this. Let's donate it to the church. So all of a sudden, 10, 20, 30 people get the tokens coming in, and there's a wallet set up for the church, and they just have their tokens or a portion of their monthly tokens or weekly tokens, however they're going to distribute them, sent to the church's wallet. And now you're helping out your particular church. Or I'm starting to work with what's called the Police Athletic League locally here, which is a organization that provides summer programs and after-school care for disadvantaged children. So that's a situation where I'm looking at trying to get involved in and doing a little bit more. So that's where a portion of my tokens will end up.
Very good. So tokens are going to increase in value as people are using it. Is that what you were saying? Did I understand that right?
I hypothesize. I can't give you a guarantee of that, but
Right.
Basically how cryptocurrencies work, and there's a thing in technology, it's actually in communications to be more specific, called Metcalfe's Law. And this was developed, I think it was around 40 years ago, and it's a big mathematical equation with lots of numbers and symbols and stuff like that. But basically what Metcalfe's Law is, the two important things are, the first point that he concluded is that a communication system increases in value in direct proportion to the number of users. So the example at that time that he was using was the fax machine, where if you and I are the only two with fax machines, it's probably very useful for us to send a document back and forth across the country in a quick period of time in a matter of, let's say, a minute or two, rather inexpensively. It only costs us a long distance charge. But that's not a very valuable technology if it's only you and I using it. Now, when you have a billion faxes out there or 500 million faxes out there, it's a valuable technology. The second point of Metcalfe's Law is what I phrase the point of no return, where eventually you go up the curve, and the more communication devices out there, eventually you get to the point where you're not adding one or two or three, you're adding 10,000 or 20,000. I mean, forget it. It just takes off. And we've seen that with the fax machine. We saw it with the smartphone. And we see it in the cryptocurrency world because this is dependent upon the number of wallets The number of wallets means that there's more users of it. And there comes a point in time where, and nobody really knows where it is, since I don't really think any blockchain has hit it yet, any cryptocurrency has hit it yet, but there will come a point where you get enough wallets out there, maybe 10 million and maybe 50 million, and all of a sudden you go from 50 million to 500 million in no time. We just haven't seen that because I think Bitcoin has really only gotten to about 5 million wallets. So it's really not seen a great saturation rate at this time. But I believe you're going to see the same thing with this. Is I anticipate with Manna, the more wallets that we get it in, the more people who have access to it, the more it's going to be valued, the more it'll be used. I mean, right now it's real simple. Everybody in the United States uses U.S. dollars. Why? Because they have dollars. Now, if I go over to Germany and I say, does anybody use, and I'm in a room of 500 people, does anybody use dollars here? Most people will not raise their hand. But if I say, does anybody use euros? Everybody will raise their hand. Why? Because they have euros. So that's one thing that I'm very optimistic about with Manna. People will use it because they'll have it. We're giving it to them. They don't have to buy it. They don't have to earn it. They just get it.
Which is a really mind-blowing concept, that you just get something for nothing. It's one of those things, it's too good to believe. But then again, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, with this, you do have nothing to lose. I'll explain that. And there's very sound technological reasons for this. And people need to realize cryptocurrency is an app. The world wants to make it financial. Cryptocurrency is not financial. It's technical. Now, it does serve a financial function. That it does. But it is an app on the blockchain. 25 years ago, we had this thing called the Internet. And the first worldwide major app that was embraced by the masses was called email. Email operated on the Internet. Cryptocurrency operates on the blockchain. It was just the first one. And there will be other apps. There will be things called decentralized autonomous organizations coming down the road. And it's just like in 1993 or 1994, if you told somebody there'd be, at that time, a thing called Facebook or YouTube, you'd blow their mind. What do you mean uploading videos? You can't upload videos. You email, text. Well, it's the same thing with cryptocurrency. We're dealing with the technology. And the technology is blockchain, which is it's just a network of computers. That's what blockchain is, a decentralized network of computers. The Internet is just a network of computers. Some centralized, some not centralized. It is 100 times more powerful in terms of impact, in terms of changing society, in terms of disruption than the Internet was. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is the Internet, when it comes knocking at your door, it destroys things. That's number one. Whatever's there, it destroys. Number two, it creates abundance. So when the Internet started, the first thing is you had static web pages, which provided information. Now, if you think back 30 years ago, in your house, you only had a couple sources of information each day. You had the evening news, you had maybe a local newspaper, and you might have had some books around. That was all the information you had in your house. Now, because of the Internet, information is unlimited. In our cell phones, in our smartphones, we have access to more information than we could read in 1,000 lifetimes. Information is abundant now. 30 years ago, it wasn't. The Internet also disrupted the information industry. What were some of the information purveyors? Magazines, newspapers, they all were destroyed. Music companies, record companies were destroyed. Video cassette rental companies like Blockbuster, destroyed. Video was totally changed with the advent of YouTube. So that was the first instant, information. The second instant was in communication. Again, go back 30 years at home, you had two choices. You picked up the telephone and called somebody, or you opened your window and screamed real loud. Or I guess you had a third choice. You could write a letter and stick it in the mail. And if you were in business 30 years ago, you had another alternative called a fax machine. But those were your only modes of communication. Fast forward to now, I mean, we have email, we have social media where you can post messages, we have smartphones, we have God knows how many instant messaging devices out there, Viber and Kik and WhatsApp and Snapchat and anything else. And it's all for free, basically, Skype. And so we can communicate in unlimited ways. The internet comes and it destroys incumbent companies and it makes everything abundant. Well, guess what the internet has decided to do now with blockchain? The internet has come to finance, and the first area of finance it's going after is money. And so it is going to destroy the banking system as it stands now. I'm not saying every bank will go out of business. They'll have to adjust, and many of them will alter how they do business, just like newspapers had to. Newspapers aren't gone, but they're certainly not operating the way they did 30 years ago. And the other thing is the internet creates abundance. So there will be abundant money. And this is just 30 years worth of history on the internet, what it does. And people have a tough time fathoming that and comprehending that. But really, that's what the central banks of the world have done for 100 years. They wanted more money. They created it out of thin air. Well, what's the value of it? The value of it is that we agree to it. So, we agree the U.S. dollar has a value and it'll takes X number of these bills for that. We agree to that. If all of us decided, you know what, these are just little pieces of paper, no different than monopoly money, the value of that currency collapses. And it's the same thing with cryptocurrency. It's a medium of exchange, and it's abundant. And we see that on Steemit. We see that with Bitcoin. We see that with Litecoin. We see that with Ethereum. And we will see that with Manna. Now, the only difference is what are the currencies used for? How are they acquired? Where can you spend them? And as I was saying, the industry is still in its infancy. So there's a lot of things that need to be worked out on that end. But there is some sound technological reasons for cryptocurrency being abundant and, in my opinion, allowing the masses to enjoy financial abundance. Because we've lived in a scarcity model for the last, 100 years, because the banks, the central banks, the big institutions had control of the money and, more importantly, control of the wealth. The average person hasn't had access to that. In fact, the average person has gone backwards over the last 20 years because of automation. Not only have jobs been destroyed, and people had to switch industries, but because of the threat of automation, there's a line of thinking out there that the wages haven't moved in 20 years because as soon as wages move up, companies automate that job out. And there's a lot of logic to that.
Actually, this is all very hopeful for people which are struggling right now. And while we're at it, we mentioned Steem and Steemit quite a bit. So I just wondered, do you want to explain really quick what Steemit is?
Yeah, Steemit is on the Steem blockchain. That's with two E's, STEEM. And it's a social media blockchain, basically 4 apps right now: Steemit, DTube, Zapple, and Steepshot. And all of them have complementary or counter apps in the traditional world. DTube obviously is modeled after YouTube. Zapple is like Twitter. Steepshot is like Instagram. And Steemit is more like a Reddit, where it's an article posting site and things of that nature. You can post links, you can post YouTube videos, whatnot. It's not quite a Facebook thing because it doesn't have the community and feature-rich interaction that Facebook does. But it's a social media platform. It's decentralized. It's on a blockchain. And basically, people get paid for their content. So when you put up an article or you create a video and put it up on DTube, people are able to vote on it, and their upvotes carry a certain amount of value based upon the contributions they've made to the blockchain over time. Because of that, whatever number of upvotes you get, that has a monetary value, which a week later you're paid on. And so there's certain people on there who are making, a fairly good sum of money. Right now, I think there's roughly $5 million a day in the reward pool. Now, obviously, people aren't paid in dollars. They're paid in what's called Steam dollars or Steam power. But each of those has a conversion rate to U.S. dollars if somebody did want to cash out. That's all part of the tokenization of the world, where people go to Reddit, they comment, upvote, and post stuff, or they go to YouTube, post a video, others comment, upvote, leave, start interactions and dialogues. But people don't get paid for that. Or maybe they make a little money off AdSense or something like that. You do that on DTube, you do that on Steemit, and people can take home pretty good sums of money. And it's only going to increase as the value of Steam, I expect, increases over the next 2 years, which I think it will.
Very cool. So it is a real good tool which doesn't take an investment besides your time and your energy, which is, that's valuable. But if you otherwise would watch TV or play on Facebook, you could spend some time on Steemit and actually make an income eventually. I know there's some YouTube videos going around where people are being told, oh, you can make $100 an article. And for some people, that's true. But for most people, it starts a lot slower. Just to be aware of that, not to go, oh, I go and I'm going to be rich tomorrow. That's not what that is.
You're absolutely correct. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Some people have come on and made a lot of money very quickly. From what I can see, the ones who come on and their first couple articles, they make obscene amount of money. Those are the ones who come over from YouTube and have a huge YouTube following. So they're able to post their video or their article on their existing social media and bring over 1,000 followers. Most of us aren't in that group. But one thing I want to comment on, and you bring up a very, very valid point, and I'll give your listeners a little bit longer term perspective on this and where I think things stand. You are absolutely correct. Steem, Manna, last time we got together, we talked a little bit about Bit Radio. These are what I'm starting to call cryptocurrency 2.0. And that's to distinguish between what I call cryptocurrency 1.0, which are your initial coins, your Bitcoin, your Litecoin, your Ethereum. Now, please don't mistake me for saying that those other coins are bad, they're going to collapse, they have value, or that 2.0 is better than 1.0. I'm not insinuating that. It's just to distinguish the difference of how they're acquired. And the cryptocurrency 1.0, that was acquired by buying in. The early adopters, who were your anarchists, your geeks, your technologists, your futurists, your anti-establishment people, whoever they were, they bought in. They put up money, they bought in. I've had people come back to me and say, well, you could mine all those coins. Yes, you could, but you have to buy a computer, you have to buy the mining software, you have to put electricity in it, that costs money. So somehow you had to put up some money. Now we have the second group of people, the finance people, Wall Street coming in, and they're putting up hundreds of billions of dollars keep coming in, and they're buying up everything under the sun. But again, there's that word, buy. Once we get past Wall Street, you get to the average person. And these are people who 95% of them will never buy a cryptocurrency. They're not going to do it. They don't speculate. They don't have the money. If they do have the money, they'd rather spend it elsewhere. Whatever the case may be, they're not going to buy in. This creates a bit of a dilemma because of the fact that in a couple of years, we will be in a tokenized world. What that means is people are going to be getting 25, 50, maybe even 100 different tokens on a monthly basis. Now, if these people aren't buying in, how do they get them? And that's where cryptocurrency 2.0 comes in. Cryptocurrency 2.0 means that it's a token that gets in people's hands just based upon the utility that token was designed for. So how do you get Steem if you don't buy it? You go on to Steemit, you go on to DTube, you go to any of the apps on the Steem blockchain, and you get active. And through that, you earn Steem. How do you get Manna? You sign up, you get it. Why? Because the design of the token was meant to be given as a basic income. You go on to Bit Radio, you sign up, you listen to the radio, you earn tokens. Why? Because it was designed. Search engines, web browsers, weight loss program, nutritional programs, anything you can think of within the next 3 to 5 years, there will be a token for. They want you to watch an ad. Some advertiser wants to advertise to you and watch a 30-second video. There will be a token that they will give to you for watching that ad if you so choose. So this is where things are going. So when you get into the cryptocurrency 2.0, why I'm so optimistic on Steem, Manna, and some of these others is the fact that this will get into the hands of that 95% of the people out there who won't buy a cryptocurrency. And they're the ones who will profit. And Manna is a basic income, but I've concluded tokens will be a basic income. People get paid for what they're doing. And like you said, if you're sitting there spending 2-3 hours a night on Facebook or Reddit or YouTube or doing any of these things, why not do that on Steemit? Why not do that on DTube and get paid for it? And like you said, in the early stages, if you don't buy in and power up by buying in, which you can do, but if you don't have the money or you don't want to risk the money or put up the money or whatever, you can sign up for an account and you can start. You're given a little bit of Steem, so you got a little bit of voting power. And I always suggest people start commenting. Don't worry about posting. Nobody knows you're there. You're an island unto yourself. Start commenting so people know you. They start following you. You start to get to know some people and get a little interaction. And because of that, people will upvote comments. They will basically give you some Steem. And over time, it builds and builds and builds. And there's people on there who are looking at helping newer people to get ahead. And it really ultimately is a situation for one to profit. He or she has to help others to profit because we're all dependent. The only way we get income is if other people vote our stuff. Well, how do you get people to vote your stuff? You have to vote for their stuff. So it kind of is an interesting circular dynamic, which really works well for me in terms of this whole idea of let's uplift humanity. Let's stop the selfishness. Let's stop the greed. Steemit is going to make a lot of people a lot of money. It already has, and it will continue to do so. I believe Manna will put people in a much better position financially at some point, that the tokens distributed each month will really help people to pay some bills and take some of the pressure off. There's a number of others that I'm checking out in the beta phase and stuff like that. And I think all of this will really change the lives of millions of people around, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people around the world.
I absolutely agree. And I can only speak from my own personal experience so far with Steemit, which I have friends which have done very well in the crypto world. And I was always one of those which just had enough to pay the bills. And I could not invest into buying crypto. Since being on Steemit, my account has grown substantially from me doing what I would have done on Facebook otherwise. So I'm very happy.
Now, let me ask you, in all your years on Facebook, how much money did you make?
0.
So in a lot less time, you are $9,000 ahead. That's the power of decentral blockchain.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, here's another interesting question on that. In all your years on Facebook, how much money did Mark Zuckerberg and other Wall Street Facebook shareholders make off your content and your data? That's the thing when you look at it. Somebody's making money.
Yeah.
That's what the secret is. The money's being made. People say, how can people be making this money? It boggles their mind. The money's being made off the stuff we do on social media. It's just a question of who makes it. On YouTube, it's Google making all that money. Facebook's making, they're a $500 billion plus entity. They made a lot of money off all your pictures and your comments and your posting and your friends. You didn't make anything, they did. Well, now on a decentralized blockchain, The people who are doing the posting are making the money. Some of them may get 25, 50 cents, $1 a post. Some may get thousands of dollars. It just depends on how many followers or how many upvotes they get and how many people they interact with. But, it's still a lot better than what you get off Facebook or YouTube or Reddit or any of the others.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we have been now doing the second show on this, because I truly believe that among all of us, and I think there are a lot of us which are maybe struggling or just kind of making it and finding another way to produce income is not only important, but it also creates hope, feeling like something can be done. And to me, that's huge. That's maybe even more important than the actually dollar amount going into your hands at any given time. Just the idea that there are ways and there are different ways. And as you said, 30 years ago, the world looked completely different. We are again at a place where big changes are happening. So I really, really thank you for bringing all of this to us. And
I'm really excited for your listeners to learn about this, not only for the opportunity that they can make some money, and they can make a whole lot of money. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be a lot of cryptocurrency millionaires. There already are, and there are going to be more. But the biggest thing is, I believe, learning about this now, it's inevitable. Every one of your listeners is going to be involved in tokens and cryptocurrency at some point, because that's the way the world is going. Does that mean that we're going to do away with fiat? No, I'm not going to say that. But as I've said, whatever people are doing, they're going to get rewarded and incentivized in the future with tokens. So learning about it now, getting on board now, getting yourself some tokens in whatever way you can. If you can't afford it financially to get tokens in the door, fine. Use some of the things we're discussing here. Manna is one option. Steem's another. BitRadio's another. I'm sure you put the BitRadio link on, the referral link on your website last time. These are just some of the things. And I promise you, this is the first wave of many. I'm looking at a search engine right now that's in beta, and I've been using that for the past couple of days. They finally approved me to use it, and it's really not a search engine at this point. It's more of a search interface that ties in with Google and Bing and all the others, because they need people out there doing enough searches to get the AI going and for their system to start getting responses when somebody types in dog. Again, that's something that I earn tokens every time I do a search, up to a certain amount in beta, and I don't know what it'll look like after the beta period. But that's just another thing that people say, well, how can they do that? Mm-hmm. Well, Google makes over $100 billion a year off search. Just Google. Now, I don't know what Bing, which is owned by Microsoft, makes, and I don't know what Yahoo, I forget who bought out Yahoo. I don't know what those make, but just using Google, $100 billion a year. I mean, heck, that if you paid every person on the internet that'd be $33 for every person who's on the internet, all 3 billion people. So, I mean, the money is out there. It's just a matter of these giant, what I call silos. You're in Google's ecosystem, you're in Apple's ecosystem, you're in Microsoft's ecosystem, you're in Facebook's ecosystem, and Amazon. They basically have taken control of the internet, and their platforms make hundreds of billions of dollars, and We're the ones providing the content. We're the ones doing the searches. We're the ones posting on Facebook. We're the ones surfing around Amazon, and they're selling our data, and they're making money off the search and putting up advertisements and all that stuff. Well, it's time for something new. And the new is blockchain. The new is decentralization.
Love it. And I love it that we all can participate in that. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, well, we have to do this again soon.
Yes, we will. We hope that you enjoyed the show and that we gave you some information you hopefully can use and utilize. do go to our website, sustainablelivingpodcast.com. I will have also links of the different things we mentioned today. So obviously to Manna, that is a Universal Basic Income distribution site. I will have that referral link. I will have a link to Steemit and to the radio. Just so you know, if you sign up to my link to Manna, I get a benefit, but you actually do too. You can go directly to the website, but you get a higher amount if you sign up through a link of somebody who is already, part of the whole thing. I don't know why it is and how it exactly works, but that's what I gathered from the website. Said it is to my benefit, but it's also to your benefit. But, you're free to do whatever you want to. I just really think it's a good idea for all of us to take advantage of those things. And if you don't feel that you need it, then maybe you want to take advantage of the option to give it to somebody else who might need it or might not have the mind space right now to sign up for themselves or for a charity. Their charities always need more money. So that's all something to consider. If you have any questions, as always, you can email sustainablelivingpodcast@gmail.com. We love that so many of you support us on Patreon. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you don't know what Patreon is, it is a site where producers like us, people which are bringing you content, which are bringing you music, podcast, art, can find patrons to support them. Because you might know, you might not know. This is a labor of love. There's no paycheck attached to it, but there's cost involved. So we really do appreciate all of you who are supporting us. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And all of you who are taking the time to listen, big, big, big fat thank you to you. You make our show and we love you. Thank you. Bye for now.